What's up, everybody? The Acolyte returned for episode 3 this week, and this is supposed to be the big bad episode that'll destroy Star Wars, but did it? Before we get into my breakdown, there will be spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. Now let's see if Star Wars is ruined. Episode 3 opened up on Brendok, which I'm assuming is the girl's home planet, as we get an entire flashback episode, pretty much to demonstrate that May was troubled even as a child. We see the girls out in the forest as Mother Coral finds them out there, and I guess they're not supposed to be out there, and so she forces them back to the witch compound, but Coral couldn't get the girls in before watching eye spotted them, that being Master Soul. This episode revealed to us that May and Osha grew up in a hidden witch coven that was banished and hunted for using dark magic and magic considered to be unnatural, as the Acolyte once again tries to draw on the nostalgic, iconic Star Wars prequels dialogue. But anyway, we saw some of the daily life in the coven, and then at nightfall, it was time for us to see May and Osha become witches. May goes first and is just thrilled, out of her life thrilled to become a witch, but Osha, she's a little more hesitant. Her ceremony was interrupted, which, she probably wasn't too upset about, as the Jedi arrived at the Coven's doorstep. Sol, Indara, Kelnaka, and Torben tell Mother Anasaya that they're worried the witches are training children in their coven, which, obviously they are, but they tell the Jedi they're not. After the girls reveal themselves, thanks to Osha being just too curious, we get to the big bad part of this episode when Sol asks the witches who their father was, and Anasaya responds they didn't have one. Now, here we go. In my mind, this is one of two things, kind of three things, like a 2A and a 2B. First, the thing I really, really, really hope it is some crazy, wacky Star Wars dark magic, and these witches cooked up two kids. That it makes some crazy sense in my mind, and it's also just kind of intriguing. But the other possibility is either they're copying Anakin with the Force birth, or there's some crazy biology going on that I never learned about. I don't know. It's not that the scene, enraged me or anything, but you just can't drop something that major and that wild, then not explain it. That's ridiculous. Moving on though, Sol immediately takes interest in Osha to be his Padawan, even going as far to put his lightsaber on display for the young girl. The mothers aren't too happy about this though, as Anasaya takes control of Torben's mind or something like that until Indara is able to reason with them and get it under control. We then get a bit more of an explanation into the whole no father thing, but still not a whole lot, as we learn Anasaya created the girls and Mother Coral carried them. That's the part right there that led me to believe it was some sort of witchcraft, but again, it's just not super clear whatsoever in this episode. Anyway, after their encounter with the Jedi, the witches convene, and Coral very much wants to attack the Jedi, but Anasaya is being a voice of reason because she knows Osha wants to be a Jedi. So, May and Osha go to take the Jedi test, but their plan is to fail those tests so they don't have to be separated from their family. May does it like it's a walk in the park. She couldn't be happier doing it. And Osha, she tries to do it, but she just can't get herself to do it, as she tricks herself into admitting that she was getting the answers wrong on purpose. So her and Sol talk it out, and she admits she wants to be a Jedi. Then she finishes the test for real. May is obviously furious with her sister after this, and she had to be removed from the room later at the witch's base when Osha told them that she wants to be a Jedi. And Asaya embraces Osha for this, but you can tell it's just because she feels like she has to. She doesn't really want Osha running off to be a Jedi, but she tells her she'll talk it over with her advisors. We don't see that discussion, but it's apparently approved, as we see Osha getting ready to leave for the Jedi Temple, but right as she's about to leave, May comes into her room and traps her in there, as she's gone completely insane and lights a fire outside her sister's room. Osha obviously escapes because we saw her in the future in episodes 1 and 2, and she finds her sister in a cavern as May tells her that she killed their mother, and everyone else from Master Soul comes in to save the girls. Right about as he arrives, May falls into the darkness, but Soul is able to catch Osha, but really the only reason he didn't force catch both is because he couldn't of after the dialogue in episodes 1 and 2 where he thinks May is dead, but there's just better ways you could have done this scene right here. outside of that issue and just avoid that all, but really, this should have just been episode 1. I don't want to spend too much time on that though, as we see Osha wake up on the Jedi ship heading back to Coruscant, and again, I hate to spend so much time bashing this episode, but Torben has his eye scar thing in this scene, and you can say it's not that big of a deal, but it's only in this scene here in the episode, so you have to assume he just got that wound off screen, which is kind of ridiculous considering he's clearly a very important Jedi to this story. Anyway, the episode ends as we see a young May, terrified and alone on Brendock after burning down her home and losing her entire family as a way to show us just how vulnerable she was when she fell to the dark side. But that didn't really work for me, and neither did this episode. It wasn't really even the two moms thing that I'm sure everyone's just going to be so happy about. I'm still chalking that up to witchcraft. I just thought this episode was super dragged out, and yet it still skips stuff like Torben getting his scar. It just doesn't make sense. It also just had a few ridiculous things like Soul not using the Force in that cave, and a couple rough CGI shots to add to the pile from the premiere. Not to mention, this story just needed to be told chronologically, as like it's just not working. This whole flashback episode did not work. And so that'll do it for my breakdown of episode 3 from Star Wars The Acolyte. That was a tough episode for the show, coming off what I thought was a pretty solid premiere, as the timeline layout in this show might end up costing it. Let me know what you thought of the episode, though, down in the comments below, and make sure you have a great day.